Hello everyone, my name is Sam Levi, in case you forgot. I was going to be sharing a Minecraft gaming Let's Play video this week, but then my computer said, no, I cannot process this much content, so I'm still trying to figure out how to edit it. But until then, here's this video. So I thought today I would do a book review since I cannot play Minecraft for y'all. So I'm going to be talking about Amateur by Thomas Page McBee. This book is about a trans man and his journey training for a charity boxing match at Madison Square Garden. So I read Amateur for my nonfiction writing class that I'm taking this semester at college. And it was a really interesting read personally. Fun fact, I read it aloud to one of my friends who's not in the class because we often buddy read books together. And so I got a really good idea of like what this book feels like, because reading a book out loud makes you very aware of the language in it. But I overall really enjoyed it. The book is about McBee's like journey with like dealing with masculinity and what it means to be a trans man, and like how masculinity is different but the same when you're trans, which I found to be like a really engaging topic. It's something that I think about a lot, you know, how do I as a trans masculine person like contribute to toxic masculinity and like the patriarchy, and how do I also like break it down in my existence. You know, when I first came out, I was like really nastily masculine, like really perpetrating a lot of ideas of toxic masculinity, which is something that McBee talks about as well, so I found that really relatable. There are a lot of really good lines in this book. I highlighted them. I'm not normally a highlighter in books, but sometimes I do it. A line that I found really, like, I don't know that it's thought-provoking because it's a thing that I think about, but I felt could be thought-provoking, was, I saw that my value depended on someone else's being less valuable. Another man, a woman, a trans person who did not pass. For me to really be a man, someone somewhere had to not be. Which I thought was a really good line, and something that I think about a lot. I'm not a very passing trans person, which is like totally fine with me. Like, I've accepted that it is a reality that I probably will not ever pass well or anytime soon. And that partially has to do with the fact that I really enjoy like playing with gender presentation and like wearing like bright colorful clothes and stuff. And so I often am like the victim, the one who like does not pass so that someone else could pass, I guess. And I thought this was a really good book that gets at some of the like basic ideas of like trans experiences without it really being about being trans, because this book is like not very much about being trans. It's about exploring masculinity, it's about boxing, it's about training for boxing. And reading this book with a majority cis peer group I thought was really interesting. A lot of them were like really fascinated by the way this presented gender, and we're like, wow, these are so many like nuanced ideas, you know. And like, to me, I'm like, this is just my everyday life. Like, I think about this stuff all the time, but I recognize that like to everyone, or to a lot of people, this is new content, you know. Another really good line that's on the same page is, my sense of vulnerability is so exquisite, it alchemized into strength, which I just think, I love the idea of like vulnerability and like tenderness as like a strength and an asset. It's something that I like think about for myself a lot. Like, I am very glad and happy and like proud of my tenderness as a person. I don't know if that's weird, but yeah, I don't know. So this book is divided up into sections of like the seasons leading up to the wrestling match. And so like a big part of this book is that he's a journalist and he's writing this piece as like a journalism exploration of masculinity. And he signs up for the charity match late, so he's like sort of rushing to get enough training to be qualified to do it, because you have to like physically pass a couple of things to like be qualified to do the wrestling match, because it's really dangerous. Like, wrestling is boxing. They're not the same thing. Boxing is really dangerous. I guess wrestling is also dangerous. I'm not really sure. But the book is really interesting because also, too, in his training experience, he goes into the gym stealth. So, like, he doesn't tell anyone he's trans. But I thought, like, the exploration of stealth, I like being a stealth trans person in this book was really interesting. And, like, talking about the privilege of being able to be stealth was really interesting. As someone who, like, I'm not really stealth in any spaces, but, like, I'm moderately stealth in some, I guess. So it's just really interesting to sort of, like, see someone exploring what that means, and, like, the fear of, like, being found out, and, like, what does it say about you that you're afraid of people finding out, and, like, you know, that kind of thing. I think is really interesting to explore, because I feel like it's not something that a lot of trans books do well. Because, I mean, at least in fiction, I think that when trans characters are stealth in fiction, it's often always, like, really poorly done, and there's, like, some big scene of, like, them being found out and being shown as lying. But that's never really the case in this book. Like, it's never, like, when he does eventually tell some of his peers in the gym that he's trans, it's not a big, like, you lied to me moment. It's just to, like, I wish that you told me. I wish that I had proved that I was trustworthy enough, that I was a good enough ally, that it wouldn't have mattered. And so it's a more, like, heartwarming moment than it is a, like, you lied to me kind of thing, which I really appreciated. And I think that definitely has a lot to do with the fact that this is, like, an Own Voices memoir work. But so the book sort of explores this idea of, like, why do men fight? Like, and why is boxing, like, a good way for them to, like, take out their aggression? And, like, are we as men inherently aggressive? Which is, like, a thing that, like, when I started testosterone, people, like, a lot of people in my life were really worried that, like, I was going to become more aggressive, which I definitely haven't, like, at all. If anything, I've become less aggressive. I don't know that that's true, but I'm not a very aggressive person in general, so I don't know. I feel like this book does a lot of things well, and it explores masculinity really. It's not like a depth study for sure. Like, reading this, I was like, yeah, like, these are things that I thought about as a trans person, you know, like, being cautious of my own, like, privilege that I now carry in the world or whatever. But I thought it was good. I feel like my biggest pet peeve or, like, issue with this book is its conclusion is really interesting. So, like, part of what it explores is the author, like, had some experiences with, like, childhood abuse and violence and assault, and so at the end of the, like, throughout the book explores, like, his relationship, my roommates. So throughout the book, the author explores like, his relationship with his mother and his stepfather, and, like, how those things influence his ideas of gender. Particularly how, like, his abusive stepfather influences ideas of gender, and, like, him being a role model, like, the only masculine role model in his life growing up, and, like, what that meant for him. And but I feel like this book tries really hard to, like, conclude all of the ideas in it, and I feel like that's not necessary. A big thing that we've talked about in my nonfiction class that I read this for is how sometimes it's better to, like, lean into the, like, confusion or the, like, not knowing, and that if you try too hard to wrap up everything, especially in a nonfiction piece at the end, then it just doesn't work, because it's not believable, because especially since as, like, a reader, I'm reading this knowing that it's based on real life, and I know that real life doesn't work that way. So when you try to conclude a book and be like, everything is happy in the end, it's like, no, it's not. That's not how life is, you know? So, because he tries really hard to conclude the, like, line through with, like, his stepfather and being like, yeah, so anyways, you know, I don't feel angry at him anymore, it's fine. Well, that's not what he says, but he says something pretty close to that. That was my biggest, like, issue with the book. But in general, I think it's a pretty good read, and that if you like are having issues like dealing with the like ideas of masculinity, or like want to explore what it means to be like a masculine person and like reckoning with your identity, because reckoning, it could be a useful read. It's not, if you've thought about it before though, it's probably not going to be the most thought-provoking, but like to my cis peers, it was very thought-provoking. They were so provoked, their thoughts so big, they had so much to say about this book. But yeah, I don't know, I think it's good. I think I gave it like 4 stars. Maybe I gave it 5. I think I gave it 4 on Goodreads. I have class in like 8 minutes, so I'm gonna stop filming now so I don't be late to class. But thank you for joining me. Don't forget to like and subscribe. And yeah, I don't know. You can check out the links in my account to like figure out where else to find me. I would love to have some friends on Goodreads, so I'll link my Goodreads in the description of this video. I know that Goodreads is like owned by Amazon or something, and I do hate that, but there's like not an equivalent app that I found that I liked. So I'm a Goodreads user. Oops. Anyways, buy this book, support a trans author. He's got another book that I'm probably going to read that is like that came out before this, that's more about just like being trans in general. I'm very interested in it. Yeah. Overall, I would recommend this, especially if you are a trans person or a masculine aligned person. Yeah. Yay. Video done.